What is up, family? It is your boy Sunil. Thank you so much for tapping in to So Real Sports Talk. We have Mr. Press Democrats own Jackhammer to the right, I guess, right side of you on the camera. I don't know, but I got to put up my hands to figure it out. But our weekly Monday night show where we're breaking down everything we saw in the 49ers. And Jack, we get to actually talk about play on the field. How does it feel, man?
It's nice to be able to talk about stuff that's happened on the field that everybody's seen and not just a few of us, right? So it makes it a totally different conversation. It makes it a lot more fun. So this is great. I'm looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, man, it's great to actually have like stuff that you could talk about that isn't just like concocted about like maybe just takes or assumptions. We actually get to talk about what happened. So that's great. Amin already jumped in. Jack and Sunil, let's go. We are about to go, Amin. So obviously this last Saturday, Jack, was the first preseason game with the 49ers against the Chiefs. Once again, the Chiefs unfortunately won the game, but nobody cares about the score when it comes to these preseason games. It's all about the players on the field. So just at kind of like maybe your overall first glimpse, what were some of your takeaways from this preseason game with the team?
You know, it's been a while since we saw preseason, right? We didn't have preseason last year, so this is the first time since 2019 that there was a preseason game. My first takeaway from it is I don't think we missed anything by not having a preseason last year. You know, and the only reason I say that is because when you look at the list of the guys from the 49ers that weren't playing in this game, it was
all the starters really, on offense.
Yeah, really. Yeah, well, yeah. You didn't have Juszczyk. You didn't have Mostert. There was no Kittle, no Trent Williams, no Alex Mack. And then you look at the defensive side, and that whole side on the defense was pretty much backups except for Dre Greenlaw and Tavon Wilson. I think was the only one that was back there because the entire front was missing, and the whole secondary was missing other than Wilson, like I said. So yeah, it was definitely kind of a little bit of a scrappy team, but it wasn't a bad game. I thought they held up pretty well. There was definitely some things to be impressed with, and some good things for them to work on moving forward. I thought the rookies held up well. Even the guys that were the backup offensive linemen that were replacing Williams and Mack, I thought Brendel and Jalen Moore held up well. You know, in the beginning of the game when they had the veterans alongside of them. So overall, like my main takeaway was that I think there's a lot of room for improvement. That's really going to be the focus that I have looking into next week, coming up on Saturday, right? It's Saturday against Los Angeles. Is it Saturday or Sunday? Sunday.
Yeah, I think it's Sunday.
Yeah, it's Sunday.
But yeah, I mean, overall, it was interesting that it was pretty much the backups, and but they were going up against first team Kansas City, right? Kansas City didn't like hold out too many plays. Mahomes was there, Tyreek Hill was there, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire was there, and there wasn't really like, obviously it was only for one series, but they didn't get gashed. There wasn't like any huge breakdowns when Mahomes and the first team was out there, and going up against guys that aren't necessarily the starters, I think shows a little bit of something to be excited about. That the depth that so many people were like, the 49ers have no depth on defense, and other than the defensive line, we got to see some players that really showed out and showed that maybe they're not ready to be starters, but definitely in spot duty, or definitely showed signs of why they're on the 49ers team. And I was pretty excited about that. Obviously preseason's more for the nerds because we're talking more about like backups and the backups of the backups, but it was I thought it was overall success, and it was interesting the philosophy that Shanahan took as far as how he played. Can you kind of delve into a little bit of that, Jack, as far as what you saw from Shanahan, the team he put out, and what he did with that team?
Are you kind of getting into more of like what they did with the quarterback situation? Is that kind of
quarterback situation? And I just think overall, like just sending in the backups, right? Like, and putting them in situations that it wasn't like they were playing their A game, right? They were kind of more using situational stuff, testing, and I saw that on both sides of the ball. Not just, I know, it's been focused on just with the quarterback, but overall it seemed like they were trying things out versus just trying to win the game.
Yeah, and he mentioned that in the post game press conference about not really there. There's no game plan, so you're just kind of throwing things out there and letting these guys compete. I do find it interesting though when you talk about the quarterbacks. I understand what he was doing there with Lance. He knows that Lance can run. Everybody on the team knows that Lance can run the ball, and so he wanted to put him in situations where he could see him grow. And so that's, I think, the direction that he went there. But it's interesting too when you look at what he did with Garoppolo, because he really played to Garoppolo's strengths, right?
Mm-hmm.
Quick little play action throw, little drag route, little things like that. Lance, he threw the ball 4 times. The one that was called back, but he threw the ball 4 times, and the ball hit a total air yards of 5. Past the line of scrimmage in the game. So his longest throw of the game was the first one that he threw, and that went 4 yards past the line of scrimmage. After that, it was, I think it was 2 yards, 1 yard, minus 1 yard, 1 yard, something like that. So, yeah, it was pretty much what Jimmy Garoppolo does, and even really with Trey Lance, that's kind of what you're going to see out of Trey Lance. That's what we've been seeing from these guys in practice. One guy dink and duck, the other guy goes down the field. So that was, I think, going back to your original question as far as like the overall takeaways, I think that was one of them. It was nice to finally get to have Lance on the field, so everybody could see what's been talked about. You keep getting arguments with people who are saying this guy and that guy, but once you put together, you can really see the differences between the two.
Yeah. And I mean, we're going to do a more in-depth analysis of Trey Lance later, but I do want, before we move on to the next question, can you give us kind of maybe a little bit of an analysis of Jimmy Garoppolo, what you saw? Obviously, we haven't seen Garoppolo play in quite a while because he went down in injuries very early in last season and, sat out the whole season. So him coming back, and although, the fan base kind of is, torn, or there's people that are very much so want Trey to start, very much so want Jimmy Garoppolo to start. There is a very real possibility that Jimmy Garoppolo is the week 1 starter. So can you talk about what you saw out of his game? Did he look healthy to you? And, what are your overall takeaways about Jimmy Garoppolo's game, even though, it was only a series and a half type of situation?
Yeah, it was just, I think he played 6 plays, maybe 7. Mm-hmm. But he looked healthy. He's looked healthy all offseason, throughout training camp. He looked healthy on Saturday night. You saw him move well on the play action where he's rolling out on the couple, because I think they did that twice with him. And he looked fine doing it. He's a guy that he looked good. He looked like Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that's the thing, right? That he's going to be able to hit those underneath routes. Once they got to 3rd and 15, he had that short throw to the middle to Ayuk that Ayuk took for a first down, but it gets called back on a pass interference on Warner. So that one coming back, you knew at that point that the drive was pretty much over because it was 3rd and 15, and that doesn't play into what Garoppolo does. So you kind of knew that it was what was coming. Drop back, dump off, and a tackle on Sermon for, I think it was 11. But he looked fine. It'll be telling to see what happens moving forward here this next game against San Diego, or I almost said San Diego again. I tweeted that out yesterday. But against the Chargers, because he's going to play more. He's going to play probably the whole first quarter, I think, is what they've said, and maybe even a little bit more than that. So we're going to see more of what he brings to the table. We kind of know what he does, but is he that same guy? Is he going to be willing to maybe push the ball down the field a little bit more and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect to see like a brand new Jimmy, but what I did want to see was, is he healthy? Is he tentative? Or is he, kind of just decisive with the kind of whatever decisive is for Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And so, you kind of saw that. Like you said, Jimmy looked like Jimmy, which is a good thing because, he wasn't looking like Jimmy when he came back from that ankle injury, last season. He got injured trying to come back and he didn't look like Jimmy. So to see him at least look like Jimmy, whatever way you feel about what Jimmy looks like, he did look like that version of Jimmy. So, which is good to see.
It is because especially if he's the guy that they're going to try to roll with, for him to be healthy and playing at the highest level that he can is helpful for them.
And, I do want to put it out there. I'm one of the biggest Jimmy Stan troll on Twitter right now. If you want to see proof, go to my Twitter. There's a lot of action going on there when it comes to talking about, Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. However, the one thing that I admire about Jimmy Garoppolo, and nobody could take it away from him, is the way that he's carrying himself through this battle. I mean, we saw the way he was cheering on Trey Lance when Trey was, threw his touchdown, got the 80-yard touchdown to Sherfield and whatnot. I think that's amazing. One of the fears that we had, Jack, when we were talking about whether or not Jimmy should get traded was dividing up the locker room. And to see these two get along so well, I think is going to take a lot of strides and open the door for Trey to actually get that starting job without it creating a lot of drama on the team, because of the way Jimmy Garoppolo is carrying himself. And I admire him for that, because he's in a very tough situation and he's coming out showing the caliber of person he is, which I think is, pretty remarkable. You don't see that from people that have, made it to the Super Bowl the way he did and, makes the kind of money that he makes. He's not pouting. He's not forcing himself out. He's actually cheering on his competition, which I think is pretty great.
Yeah, no, that's good. But let me throw this at you, because it is good, and I've seen this brought up a lot, and that's being a good teammate. At the same time, that's going to make it harder for Shanahan to pull him out, because all of his teammates are seeing him being a good guy, and he's cheering this kid on, and the only way that he's going to lose is that I foresee that whole thing become if Shanahan just pulls him out without him being hurt or having just a gosh awful game, then that's where that whole split in the locker room piece comes about. Is at this point he's playing the good guy, and he's going to make it so that Kyle Shanahan's the bad guy.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think he's playing. I think Jimmy's just a naturally good guy, but he does look good on the sideline. Let's put it that way. So him. Well,
I don't mean it like he's playing, but he's
a good guy in the situation. He's hard to hate.
No, and he's handled it the best way possible, but that's making the whole situation tougher as far as actually moving on from him.
Yeah,
at least in my opinion.
But I think he just looks, on the field, he's wearing his helmet. On the sideline with the clipboard, you get to see his perfect hair. You get to see the perfect jawline. I just think that if the 49ers understand, what sells, Jimmy Garoppolo without a helmet on the sideline with the clipboard is what sells. You're talking about TV ratings. That sells, my friend. So that's, I think, the way that they should pitch it, is Jimmy Garoppolo on the sideline without a helmet actually does more for the 49er brand than him on the field with a helmet.
Right. Yep.
All right. So getting back to being serious, I'm Mr. Positive, but I did want to start off with maybe what I thought was the biggest question mark and something that I didn't expect to go the way that it did. I know you mentioned a little bit about some bright spots that you saw on the offensive line, but overall for me, I saw a very porous offensive line, one that was people that we expected to play well didn't really play well and seemed like they were just outgunned and outmanned and discombobulated overall. So I think you may have a very different viewpoint on that, but tell us overall what you see in this offensive line and what's going on with them.
Well, I think the thing here is that the offensive line is going to be fine. It's going to be okay across the starting group of that starting five. Daniel Brunskill's the weak link. The backups are struggling. Jalen Moore played pretty decent at left tackle. When he was in there early on, he struggled in the second quarter. He got beat for the one sack, but other than the sack, he played okay. Even go back to the first quarter, though, and there was the fly sweep, jet sweep, whatever you want to call it, that they ran with Brandon Ayuk. That's a big play waiting to happen, but he trips coming off the line, and he misses the linebacker, and then that linebacker is the guy that makes the tackle because Ayuk's not able to cut it back inside because he's sitting right there because he doesn't get cut off. Just overall, this group didn't get in. And I went back and watched the game. It's hard when you're there. You're focused on the game, and just especially with the first time that I was in the press box, it was a different thing trying to get my bearings. That I think I got it handled for 2 weeks from they play the Raiders. But going back and watching it again, the offensive line just got no push in the run game. They weren't pushing anybody off the line. Some of that probably has to do with Mack not being there and Williams not being there. But that's part of the reason why Sermon really didn't get going was there was no movement from the offensive side. And in the passing game, Daniel Brunskill just got stood up and by Chris Jones and knocked over. He trips over Sermon's foot, but that was after he was already stood up and was pretty much beat. I have faith in the starting offensive line, though. When Alex Mack is there and when Trent Williams is there, I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be a better unit than they were last year. We know what Brunskill is. He's a journeyman guy that's going to start because Aaron Banks is not good right now. And that showed up really when I was watching the game at first, it looked like he was doing okay because they ran right over his side a couple of times. It was right after the interception by Lenore. They came out, and I think they ran 3 straight times to the right side, got a first down. He had some nice blocks there, but then just the wheels just came off it for him. And you see him start missing blocks in the run game. You see him, just whiff on pass protection. So it's rough when the guys that miss their blocks are the same guys that have struggled during one-on-one drills during training camp. Daniel Brunskill, Aaron Banks, he's been okay, but he's struggled at times too. He hasn't been, rock solid. Colton McKivitz has been iffy, and he got beat for one, and then you had more for the other one. So there's some things to definitely work on there, and I think some of that goes to Trey Lance too. There was one for sure sack that was on him. I think there was really 2 after I saw some all 22 footage today.
Now, Greg is bringing up a good point. We obviously got breaking news that Trent Williams is going down for, I think, 2 weeks with an injury. So Greg asks, what's the backup plan if Trent Williams' injury is serious? The offensive line would completely fall apart without him. And before you answer, Jack, one thing that we were talking about before this preseason game is how much we feel like this offensive line is going to actually enhance the 49ers because of guys like Alex Mack and Trent Williams. And we thought that the depth with the guys they picked up through the draft and, some of the guys that have been on the team for a while that could kind of come in with spot duty, this is going to be a very solid offensive line overall. Now we're talking about they'll be okay. I'm fearful that these backups don't seem like they are going to be ready to play, full-fledged starters and game time speed. What is the backup plan if Trent Williams isn't able to play or goes down with the injury somehow through the season?
Well, we saw it on Saturday night. If Trent Williams is down, it's going to be Jalen Moore. He's the backup at left tackle. It doesn't sound like this injury is serious, though. They felt like it. At least that's what they said after practice today. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But if Williams is down, it's going to be Jalen Moore. That's the guy they drafted. I don't think they really drafted to have him play left tackle. They weren't expecting that when they took him. They were expecting him to compete with Justin School for that swing tackle role and same with Sean Coleman. So that's the plan. They're definitely they definitely have some thin. They're definitely thin. I think the entire NFL, when you really get into it, is pretty thin once you get past the starters, right? Look what happened in the Super Bowl last year when you had backup offensive linemen in the game for Kansas City. Right. So it's not like that's limited to the 49ers. I think they're going to be in an okay situation. Keep getting more reps. Keep getting McKivitz reps, and that I think the guy that you got to be more worried about is the fact that Banks went down. Banks isn't going to be practicing for 2 to 3 weeks. He's the one that's out for a couple of weeks. So now that Daniel Brunskill is more likely than not going to be your starter at right guard week 1 because Banks isn't even able to practice again until after the preseason's over with. So that's a position to be concerned about as right guard.
And I guess the constant optimist that I am, the offensive line is the side of the ball that I think takes the longest time to develop, right? Because it's a lot about timing. It's a lot about, trusting the guys on the right and left side of you. And especially when they don't really know who the quarterback's going to be, right? Because blocking for a Jimmy Garoppolo is much different than blocking for a Trey Lance. And then also these are guys that probably didn't practice together too much because it was a mismatch of second string and first string offensive linemen. So it looked the way that it was, I guess, supposed to look, right? For the offensive line to be the way that it is. So cause for concern, but I like that you're saying they'll still be fine. Like it's not like red flags, like sound the alarm, like this is gonna sinking ship. You still feel like everything's gonna be all right with this offensive line.
But look at how Moore. I think Moore played well against Kansas City in their starters in the game, right? Because he was in there with the Flyers offense and he played okay. So did Brendel. I mean, they're okay, but I'm just not ready to jump off the ledge quite yet. Like some of what I'm hearing, I understand that they have some issues at the offensive line, but a lot of their big issues are once you get to the backups, and those rookies have to develop. You got to give them time, and you got to realize that they're not going to be starting week one. And if there is anybody, it might be one of them. So,
and once again, we've always talked about having an all-pro center really changes the dynamic of the offensive line. Having an all-pro left tackle obviously changes the dynamic. So the two pieces that weren't there, and even Tomlinson wasn't there as well, correct?
Tomlinson was in the game. Yes, he was.
He was in. So, but those two pieces, Mack and Trent Williams, are like the LeBron and Anthony Davis of our offensive line. So it's kind of like saying, "Oh, these Lakers look like trash," but the two best players, your all-pro players, weren't there. So clearly, that's gonna raise the level of the play when those two guys are in the game.
Yeah, and real quick before we jump off this whole line topic, I would say go. I've done a lot of retweeting or tweeting out of some all 22 footage that I came across today of some of the Trey Lance's plays. Go back and look at the first play of the game that Lance is in there, and watch Mike McGlinchey put on a clinic for how you play tackle. He does a great job. I know we rip on this guy all the time, so since he did such a good job on this pass protection, I want to kind of throw him some praise on that one because it's a stellar job over there at right tackle on that one. And I'm not being facetious at all. I'm being 100% genuine with this. He had great pass protection, rolled the guy out and just stood him up, and it was really nice. That's part of why when Lance started to run, he had the space that he did.
Beautiful. Eat your heart out, Grant Cohn. McGlinchey's coming to play this season. Great. So let's move on. So, one thing, Jack, that I have been at one point on an island with, and then thankfully the big guns and you came onto my island and started, adding some validity to what I was saying. But people were just trashing the secondary, saying that there's no depth. They're the weakest link. Like, we need to go out and make some drastic moves. Xavier Moore, go out and get Steph Gilmore, which, I brought up as well, but that was the trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. but that was before the draft as well. So, and I've been super high on Ambry Thomas. Lenore, I didn't know as much about, but he obviously had a huge game this preseason. And the safeties, Hafanga, all these guys, the secondary came out and they played extremely well, especially against, such a high-powered offense in the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, it wasn't their original offense because it was backups and whatnot. But can you break down the play of the secondary and what you saw out of these backups?
Yeah, I thought the secondary played really well. You go across the board, these guys they did a really good job. Ambry Thomas and Diamondor Lenore are two guys who I've been trying to tell everybody for the last week and a half that these guys have been coming on at camp. And part of, I think, why they looked so good on Saturday night was they were playing to their strengths. They were in man coverage quite a bit, and these guys are really good man corners. And they gave up some completions, but they didn't give up anything down the field. Everything that they gave up was short. If the ball was got, on the throws that were down the field, they were running stride for stride with their guys. So I'm one of those guys that was kind of with the group too early on as far as being concerned with the depth in the secondary. That's something that I even wrote about at one point during the off season because it is a little concerning when you have secondary guys that haven't played in the secondary before. When you have the health issues of what the 49ers do have with their starting group, right? But these guys have come on, and the more and more I've watched them. At training camp and what I watched of them even before training camp. That's kind of when you remember I got on your side, as you say. And so what we saw was really what they've been doing in one-on-one man coverage drills at camp. They can dominate in that, not dominate, but they can more than hold their own in that area of the game. Uh, so I thought they held up well. I thought that Diamondor Lenore did really well. They threw at him a couple of times. The interception, I understand that the ball bounced off the guy's hands, but if he's not plastered to his guy, that's not an interception either. So he was in the right spot at the right time. Took advantage of a bad throw and a drop and picked that ball off. So that's a good play on his part. You also got to talk about Talanoa Hufanga. I think he played really well too, and I know one of our other topics later is gonna kind of I'll speak with him a little bit more, but he played really well. He's another guy that's come on. These rookies in the secondary have taken some time to develop, but they've really come on. There was a point, I think it was last week, when Lenore and Thomas both came to the media tent to talk to the media after practice, and they were asked about kind of what their time has looked like with the 49ers, and they were both very honest about how that I think it was Lenore who said I was lost. I didn't know what the heck was going on. Showed up for the good thing that I had Ambry here. At least we were lost together, And then one of the second, somebody told Jimmy Ward to kind of help him out and show him what to do, and they got some guidance from him, and it's been a process for these guys. And I think that's the case for all these rookies, that you step into it and you struggle a little bit. You're trying to figure out, you don't even know where you're supposed to go for lunch, let alone who you're supposed to, the coverage that you're supposed to be doing or whatever,
right.
And I'll just tell you, could I just give you a quick, real funny story though? Because I feel like I've been the rookie like the last 3 weeks, going to camp and going to the game on Saturday night, as the new guy in the media group, And I'm sitting there listening to Diamondor Lenore talk, and I just felt like stepping up and walking over there and giving a big old high five afterwards and telling him that I feel him. That's how I've been. That's the way that I felt, for the last 3 weeks. Especially, going into, I don't even know how they, Saturday. I can't even imagine Saturday night when he knows that he's going to be starting in his first ever game in the NFL. Because heck, I was nervous driving up there, and I was just going to be sitting in the press box,
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I think people are starting to see, what I had seen originally. And I got to give a lot of credit to Eric Crocker, because he did some really great breakdowns on Ambry and Lenore, which really made me realize that, look, these guys were steals in the draft for us to find them where we found them, right? And I think a lot of that had to do with the COVID season. A lot of that had to do with the depth at the cornerback position this draft. And, a guy like Ambry Thomas falling, Lenore falling, just because of, not being able to play as often, or missing a whole season in Ambry Thomas's position. But the thing that I really like him is the same reason why I think, Eman Mosley, solidified himself in the league. And that's just this internal confidence that they exude. And they just believe that there's nobody on the field that's better than them. And they're not afraid to challenge anybody that's in front of them. And I think especially with cornerback, where every single play, like if you make one mistake, it's magnified, as a corner, and you have to that mentality has to just forget about it and go to the next play, because we've seen, a cornerback be rattled on the 49ers and see what happens when it's just play after play after play after play. But these guys seem to have a mental toughness that I saw. And then obviously the physical ability, matched with that. I knew that they were going to be great additions to the 49ers, and that where everybody thought, oh man, we're razor thin at corner, I was like, nah, man, we got some gems there that just because they have the R next to them, you think that they're weak, but it's not true. And can you speak, I mean, you've seen them in interviews. Can you speak to that confidence that they exude as far as just who they are as people?
Yeah, that's a funny one, because I don't want to really put words. That's there's definitely a confidence, I think, that they exude on the field. But when at least with Diamondor Lenore, you can tell that he's nervous when he steps to the mic, which is fine. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a situation that he's been put in a whole lot over the course of his career, at Oregon even. So, but in order to when they step out on that field, they're ready to go, and they get up and they'll get up, and it doesn't matter if they're going up against Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk or River Craycraft. They get up in their face and they get after it. So when they're on the field, they're in their face. They're making plays, and they're especially in the, like I said, man coverage. These guys can be really, really good, and I think you're going to see that a lot from the 49ers anyway, which is I think why they took them.
And obviously preseason first game, I love putting you in these positions where it's like you're way too early predictions, but seeing this secondary as maybe not all of the, I mean, most of these guys are going to be backups, right? Especially the corners, safety, obviously we're going to talk a little bit about that, but knowing what you saw out of these guys going up against a team in the quality of Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs, what's your overall kind of belief of what this secondary can do this year?
I think the secondary, the starting secondary is going to be really good if they're all healthy. I think that Verrett's going to be dominant. I think Emmanuel Mosley looks bigger and stronger than he did last year, and Jimmy Ward's confident as heck, as you heard in the interview that he did, about a month ago with Grant, and he's backed that up a couple of times now. I know he did an interview with one of the local sports radio stations out here, KMBR. It was last week. And he reiterated he didn't back down from any of that stuff that he said in that original interview. He was asked about it, and he's like, no, he feels he's extremely confident that he can shut anybody down. So I think they're in a good spot.
That's great. And I mean, if the secondary, because I know one of the biggest points of contention for the secondary is they want to get more turnovers. So to see the secondary actually turn the ball over and get an interception with Lenore, I think is a good sign. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that, moving forward, as far as like this being a secondary that's actually filled with ball hawks that are actually looking to intercept the ball versus just bat it down, which is something we haven't had, in quite some time, is an actual secondary that turns the ball over.
Yeah, and that's going to come when the pass rush comes too, because once they get their starters in there, you're going to see some great pass rush, which I think is going to in turn give these guys chances to make plays on the ball, because the ball having to come out sooner than quarterbacks want to.
I love it, man. So let's move on to just, obviously not a lot of starters were playing, which gives a great chance for us to see, players that maybe we didn't know what they were capable of. And, seeing, now that you got it, you put up some great stuff in all 22s. I've been watching it. I was at work, stealing during my breaks, looking at your Twitter and watching the videos you were posting up today, Jack. And who were some of the guys that really stood out to you, and who took the biggest strides to really solidify themselves to make this team, come week one?
Going back to kind of you're joking about the all too early prediction kind of thing. I think this guy was, I think, expected to make the team, but I think he might be taking steps to find a role as a starter on the defense, and that's Talanoa Hufanga. I think there might be a time this season where he really pushes, and he might be pushing even before the start of week one, Tavon Wilson for the starting strong safety position, because Hufanga is a guy who seems to have that ability to do both roles. They want their strong safety and free safety to kind of be interchangeable in a way. And Hufanga is a guy who could really plays really good up in the box. He can be like a linebacker up there, but at the same time, you put him back in that deep third, and he's very good back there, because when he has everything in front of him, he sees the ball, he sees and attacks things really well. So that's the guy who I think really made some big strides over the last week, especially on Saturday night. He really, stepped up and stood out as a guy that got thrust into that starting role. So that's one of them.
Before you move on, let's talk a little bit more in depth about Hufanga, because I don't know if it was his hair, and we were having some like Troy Polamalu flashbacks or whatnot, but it seemed like he was in every single play. I don't know what it was. Like maybe it was, like I said, maybe it's his hair, so he's like hard to miss. But he flies all over the field, and I know you were there in the press box. Can you talk about, on camera, it just exuded that this dude is giving like 100% effort during every play. Is that what you were seeing as well?
Oh yeah, he's a guy he's a playmaker. He flies around, and that's part of why he was the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year last year. He was, a standout in the Pac-12. The only reason that the 49ers got him when they did was because of the injury concerns that he's had with the shoulder and concussions and things like that. So he has some injury stuff which knocked him down the draft board. But this is a guy who he knows how to make. He's a playmaker through and through, and he shows that constantly on film. When you watch him at USC, and he looks like the same guy wearing red and gold.
Beautiful. Did anybody else really stand out to you, or kind of turned your head?
Charlie Werner had a couple of nice catches. I know he had the bad play where he got called for a pass interference. He's got to be a little more careful with how he's running that pick on that route. He doesn't really need to stare that guy down quite as much and make it so obvious. But he had a really nice catch. And Trent Sherfield's the guy who's come out of nowhere in the last couple of weeks. You know, he's either going to be the number 3 or the number 4 receiver on this team. So when you talk about strides for making this team, I think he was kind of expected to make the team in a special teams capacity, but I think he's going to be much more than that once the season rolls around, because he's making big play after big play.
Yeah, and I mean he was been one of the biggest names out of training camp, and to see him on the field, and obviously he seems like he has a really good rapport with Trey Lance, and obviously the touchdown that Trey Lance threw was to him. It's nice to see that speed on the outside. I feel like we've missed that, and we've always been kind of looking for that type of player that could stretch it deep in an option, and it looks like he's that guy, right? I mean, obviously he's in competition with guys like Sanu and Jennings, who both all are good options as well, but it seems like he has an added dynamic that the 49ers could really use, and he obviously has a lot to prove. Can you tell me, there's another guy that stood out to me? I don't know if you saw it as well, but that was, the guy that was replacing or playing the Fred Warner role in Jonas Griffith. Talk a little bit about what you saw out of him. And, the linebacking core has been something that it's a little bit of a question mark as far as depth. We obviously had 2 of the best linebackers there, but behind him, what is seeing what Jonas Griffith did do for your faith in that, linebacking core?
Yeah, I like that you brought him up. I was actually going to mention him after you're done there, so I'm glad you brought him up, because he played really well. He stepped into that spot, and he's done a decent job in camp, and he definitely showed it on Saturday night. He's built very similar to Fred Warner, and he's a fast guy who's learning how to play the game. He played at a small school in college, and he's definitely ramping up. And if he makes a team, it's going to probably be mostly as a special teams guy, but 49ers special teams need as many players as they can, and I think he'd be a valuable backup.
And speaking of special teams, this Simba guy really turned some heads, I think, with his ability, not only in the kick return and punt return game, but he was running that jet sweep, and this guy has some burners. I don't know if he was somebody on your original 53-man roster or if he's somebody that will even make the team, but seeing what you saw out of him, Jack, do you see a place for him on the final roster with the 49ers?
There could be, because they definitely need to do something in terms of kick returning. The concern there is that he puts the ball in the ground a lot. He did that quite a bit when he was with the Rams, but he's got the speed, and quite frankly, Richie James Jr. doesn't belong on this team. He can't catch the ball from Trey Lance, and he had 2 kickoff returns on Saturday night, and I think he averaged under 20 yards on those 2 kickoff returns. So for a guy whose primary job is to make the team on special teams as a kick returner, I don't know if James is that guy. I don't know who else would be returning kicks for him unless they try to do one of the running backs. So I would say that that's a pretty good option there for Simba to take that spot.
Beautiful. Anybody else, or should we move on?
No, I think you hit on those were the main ones for me. It was hard because there were so many of the normal starters out. They were playing the whole game and moving in and out. But as far as guys who are going to make the roster that you didn't expect, I think those are pretty much it.
Yeah, and I do want to give some more praise to Lenore as well. I've been pretty hot on Ambry, and Ambry didn't have a bad game, but I think Lenore had a really great game and kind of outshined all the other corners as far as just his tenacity and his positioning, and obviously ended up with the interception. So he's somebody that I think turned some heads, and people were wondering if he would make the team. I think now we're looking at him as an asset of a guy that's definitely going to be there, not just because the 49ers are thin, but also because he is a very capable corner in the NFL, and only is going to get better, with more reps and more time in the league.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. So, it's not a 49ers show unless we do our obligatory let's talk about Trey Lance, right? So he obviously got some playing time. There was a lot of good, a lot of bad, but your overall takeaways and analysis of Trey Lance and what you saw.
Okay, so if you asked me this question Saturday night, yesterday, and this morning, I'm going to tell you that I thought that Trey Lance played pretty good considering the fact that it was his first game in a couple of years and everything that they kind of went into it. You asked me now that I've been able to see some of the All-22. Again, I don't have All-22, so I just found somebody on Twitter that somehow was able to find it or you get it. And so I'm just kind of using their videos to make some points. And watching him on the All-22 is it's rough. It's rough. Didn't play very good.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you because, and I think part of it is that Shanahan definitely came out and said, look, we didn't play to Trey's strengths. We were putting him in the situations where he's shown the weaknesses of his game, and they were trying to see what he would do, or at least give him game time, experience in those roles. But there was time. I know a lot of people are just focusing on, the deep throw to Sherfield and, some of the throws that were missed, that were drop balls, because obviously the receivers dropped a lot of his passes. But I saw some timing issues. I saw him hold the ball a little bit too much. Obviously there was 2 interceptions that were dropped as well. I don't think that this is he's a terrible quarterback, but I think he's obviously great, and the flashes that we saw were amazing. But overall, I would it made me pump the brakes a little bit and be like, okay, there is room for improvement here that we need to pay attention to at least.
Yeah, so let's go through a couple of them if we can. Sure. I want to really hit on this. I really want to hit on that first play that they ran, because it's concerning to me. And the reason it's concerning to me is that what I saw on that play when I watched the All-22 was the same stuff that I saw of him at the end of his college career at North Dakota State in the national championship game. And you see it on some of his film throughout his time in North Dakota State. And that's where he doesn't throw the ball when he has somebody between him and the receiver. And when you watch that play, that's a staple play of the 49ers offense. It's play action, deep drop, and it's all meant to look like you're going deep, and then the receivers cut it off and run curls at about 20 yards, 18 to 20 yards downfield. So that they're pushing downfield, and then they're stopping and running back. It's a play that the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan run quite a bit. It's a play that Alabama ran a lot, with Steve Sarkisian there. And he hits his back foot, and he's looking to his left, and he's got pretty sure it's Sherfield on that side, and he's got him wide open. But he doesn't throw the ball. He then turns to his right, and he's got Brandon Ayuk wide open, and he doesn't throw the ball. Instead, he takes off scrambling and then finally throws the ball, and it hits him in the hands and drops it. And that's what everybody's focused on, right, is the drop by Ayuk. That play was screwed up the minute that he didn't throw the ball to Sherfield, because Sherfield's open. When you watched it on the All-22, if you go onto my Twitter, which you've already seen, he hits his back foot of that drop. Sherfield's got 10 yards, 12 yards maybe, between him and the linebacker who had bid on the run, that has his back to Lance, has no idea what's coming, and is sprinting in to try to get underneath him. And that action alone makes it so that Lance doesn't throw it over him. That's an easy throw. That should be an easy pitch and catch for any NFL quarterback to hit that ball over the top of that linebacker who has no idea that the ball's even coming. Same thing on the other side. The same thing's happening over there. That linebacker is sprinting back. He's a little bit more in the throwing lane, but if that ball's thrown on time, he's open. There's a definite throwing lane there. I don't know why he's holding on to the ball. So that's an issue. That's a problem. And that's something that we saw out of him at North Dakota, like I said, was that not throwing the ball when he has people in his field of vision between him and the receiver. The reason it's such a big issue is I don't know how you coach him out of that, because it's an
Confidence
identity
thing.
thing. Yeah, he's not believing that it's open behind him, because he doesn't have that vision. He's not seeing through it, and it's a really hard thing to work. That's why I said, I even tweeted out this morning, this guy needs to be on the field. If you made all this, he needs to be on the field. You need to let him play through this. You need to know that you're going to take your lumps. Otherwise, if he's not going to learn it sitting on the bench, he's just not. And it came up again. It was let's go back. Let's go now. Let's jump to the sack. His next pass attempt, right? His second pass attempt. It's third down. He gets pressure. It's an all-out blitz. His eyes are locked on Charlie Warner, who's running a curl over the middle. That's that little tight end curl that they run with Kittle. He's running to the sticks and turning it around. So he knows that he's going to have that guy at the sticks, right? It's against man. Well, everybody in the middle of the field blitzes, and he has 15 from his right to his left coming across with nobody around him. All he's got to do is drop the ball off, get the ball, find him, get the ball to him. It's a blitz beater. Get it to him and let him make a play, and it's a first down. Instead, he holds onto the ball because he's staring down the tight end, and then as soon as he realizes it's not there, he's getting some pressure. You can see his feet start to move real quick, because all of a sudden he's panicking because he's going to get sacked. And you saw that happen again, on the drive following the Lenore interception. They get the ball, they run the ball into inside the 20. They call I think it was an empty formation where they move Gallman out to the left side. It's a blitz by Kansas City. That ball's got to come out quick. He's got Gallman running a quick little slant. It should be boom, get the ball out of your hand. Instead, he gets it, and he's holding it too long, and he gets sacked. That ball should have been out. It should have been a completion. It should be positive yardage. So there's a lot of things there that need to be worked on, that need to really be improved with this game. Otherwise, the Framers are going to be in a lot of trouble. I understand that you're going to get the run game from them. I understand that you're going to see more play action from them, but you can only go so far with that. I mean, I think they could win games, but that puts you right back in that whole Kaepernick thing where there's issues, and there's definite issues with Trey Lance, and I'm a little disappointed, because I know that he has the ability to make plays, but we didn't see it, and you can't say that it's the offensive line. Those are mistakes that he's making, not anybody in front of him.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you pointed to the solution, right? The solution is, so one thing that people kind of aren't talking too much about when it comes to Trey Lance is how many times he threw the ball in college, right? He averaged maybe, I think, like 20 attempts, something around that number, whether it be a few below, a few after, a few more, but about 20 attempts per game. Like, it was a run-heavy kind of offense. He was used a lot in the running game. And it's not even for the 49ers, they average not, I guess, maybe 28, 29. They're always low, bottom 5 in how many pass attempts per game under Shanahan for whatever reason. And he doesn't get a lot of reps. He didn't get a lot of reps in college. He's not getting a lot of reps here with the ones for the 49ers. And the issues that you're talking about aren't they're not going to just be solved through watching tape, right? Eventually, he has to have the confidence in his ability to see it and then pull the trigger, right? It's a confidence thing. It's a comfortability thing. It's a timing thing, right? And that doesn't come from sitting on the bench with a clipboard, watching, seeing it through a tablet, and you had those real life scenarios have to be there. And I have nothing but faith that he's going to be able to learn this stuff, because he has a lot of work ethic. He has all the tools like you talked about. He wants to be better. He's a humble student, but he needs reps. He needs to be out there. It's not like a year of sitting back watching Jimmy play. He's all of a sudden going to get this confidence, right? He needs to play. And I know you're pointing these things out and you're saying you're a little bit disappointed, but do you feel like these are things that he can fix with more experience?
Some of it, I mean, I think so. I would hope so. I hope that that he can. It's the eye thing is a tough one, um, and the reason it's going to be tough on him is because he hasn't done it a whole lot, right? Again, I understand all these guys that were top draft picks this year, with the exception of Lawrence, were pretty much, definitely the guys after the first two, Lance and the guys that were going to be there at 3, Lance and Jones and Fields. Those guys haven't played a whole lot, and the problem is, how long is it going to take for him to be able to realize that he's got to get the ball over that linebacker to get that ball into to Sherfield? Is this something that he's going to be able to adjust and come out and do that against Los Angeles on Saturday? Is it going to take him the whole season? Will he ever do it? And that again, I mentioned it. I saw it, in January of 2020 when he played in the national championship game for North Dakota State. I saw it when I did the film breakdown with Grant. I was really hard on Lance. And one of the reasons was because he wasn't making those throws. He had guys wide open, and over again, he wasn't taking the throw. And we saw it on Saturday night, and unfortunately we saw it. And I didn't catch it originally because the game's happening so fast in front of you. You got to go back and watch it from really see it, because when you're there, you can't really see the full field quite the same, right? Depending on where you're looking. But yeah, you see it again, and yes, I hope he can get better. He's going to have to, right? He has to, and I know that he works hard. All that hard work that he put over the summer and in the off season was all about mechanics, and his eyes aren't going to change until he gets out there and starts doing it.
And when you say eyes, you're talking about vision and processing, right?
Yeah, he's got to be able to hit that back step. He needs to realize that that linebacker's got his back turned to him. So there's no way that he's going to make a play. He's sprinting back there, so he's in his way. As a quarterback, you hit there, and I can understand what it looks like. You're looking there, and it looks like he's covered. But the guys that are really good, the guys like, that dominate in this league, they can realize that, okay, that guy's turned his back. He's not where, there's a gap there because their eyes are just different where they can see the field better. And so he knows that Tom Brady knows that he can get the ball over the top of that guy, and Mac Jones knows that he can get the ball over the top of that guy. Sorry, but that's just a fact of the matter. And I'm not saying Mac Jones is one of the top guys, but that's a play that Alabama ran over and over and over again. And he hit that ball. He could hit that. He would have hit that throw in his sleep.
Ouch. Harsh. Greg asked, did either of you notice Lance making any adjustments at the line of scrimmage? Is that something he's been working on, or is this another example of getting him more in-game reps?
Yeah, there was a couple of times where you could see him get up there and pull back from the center and make some adjustments and things like that. So yeah, he's that part of it. I'm not worried about the mental side of the game, the adjustments and really kind of understanding the offense. I think that Lance is going to thrive on the chalkboard, just like we've heard for everybody say. This kid's extremely smart. It's just, and we saw him do that. It's taking that though and applying it to the field, and so get him on the field and let him go. And I think you got to get him on the field with the starting offensive line so he's not running around like a maniac.
Yeah, and once again, we have to talk about that. If Trey Lance is your starter, what we saw, what would it be the game plan, right? They're going to be running a lot more of, the triple option maybe, or running more of quarterback option, read plays, things of that nature, which will loosen up the pass game for him, loosen up that rush, so on and so forth. So we kind of minimized it to his weaknesses and then put him in a situation where we can't give him any of his strengths, right? And so obviously we're going to see it gives, I guess, more of an opportunity to see him in a negative light. But I don't think you're saying this. I don't think you believe, oh man, he's the wrong pick or he's not going to be a great quarterback. You're just showing that, hey guys, let's pump the brakes a little bit. These are some aspects that we need to see, because I think you have him pretty high. Like, you expect him, you believe he has the ability to be one of the great quarterbacks in the league. This is what he needs to work on to reach that level. He's not there yet. Am I putting words in your mouth, or is that kind of what you're trying to say?
Yeah, that's that. I don't think you're totally putting words in my mouth. I think he has the physical makeup and the ability to go out there and make really good plays, and he's done that at times. It's just there's definitely some weaknesses in his game, and he needs to improve on those. So you're right. I'm kind of saying pump the brakes a little bit in terms of I think there's some issues out there, and he's got to get better.
Well, let's not leave it on just doom and gloom, Jack. What is this? Are you Jesse right now? Is this Jesse Taylor?
Well, that's what's funny about it, right? I mean, I just wrote an article this morning that was in the Santa Rosa Press Democrat where I was saying, you got to get Trey Lance starters or starters. You got to get them reps with the starting offensive line, and I think that view hasn't changed. I'm very high on what he can bring to the table. I think he needs to get. He wants to push the ball down the field so much, but he also needs to remember, if I get the ball to this guy at the 5 yards past the line of scrimmage on a 3rd and 8, if I can get him the ball on this pick play, he's going to catch it, and he's going to turn up the field, and he's going to get a first down. I don't need to sit in the pocket and try to drill this ball over the middle to Charlie Warner when I have my running back wide open with nobody within 10 yards of him over here on the side. Especially with the offensive line that he has in front of him, he's not going to be able to sit back there at times. So just understanding the process, understanding what it takes to get the ball down the field and make play after play after play and be consistent in that respect, it's going to be a process for him. And I'm excited for him. I really am. I think he has the potential. I don't want to. I know everything I'm saying sounds really harsh, and I agree with you on that. But I do think he has a lot of room to grow. And we still have a month to go, so let's see what happens. I think he can go out there against San Diego and just blow them up.
Right, and I mean we did see some flashes, and we gotta talk about the 80-yard bomb. But there's one thing, there were a lot of drops. Do you put that on the receiver, or does he need to learn a little more touch with his passes, because he obviously has a really strong arm, he has a cannon in there. When I'm seeing guys like Ayuk drop the ball, to me, I'm like, wow, I mean, Ayuk is, if Ayuk's dropping the ball, we're doomed, right? Because that's our best receiver. Is that a finesse thing, or was that just, the receivers are, made some mistakes?
Yeah, I think the one to Ayuk, maybe he could have taken a little bit off of that one because he had stepped up and thrown it to him. But even then, that was a tight window throw, because if you watch that ball, I think part of the reason why Ayuk drops it is he has 49 kind of flashing to his side. And I think he might have taken his eyes off of it for just a second because of that defender there. But the drop by Craycraft, he needs to throw that ball as hard as he can. That's kind of a crazy throw to even try to attempt that with the way that it crossed the field like he was doing and everything. But that should have been caught. He hit him right in the hands. The one to Richie James, that was his best throw of the game, and James dropped it. But that's James has done that all throughout training camp. He cannot catch the throws from Trey Lance to at all. It seems like he really struggled with that, and we saw that on Saturday, and it killed the drive. So those 3 examples, I would say, aren't really on Lance. Those are more on the receivers just not being able to handle the ball.
Okay, now, before we jump off this topic, I do want us to talk about the wow moment that we saw out of Trey Lance. Can you break down a little bit about that touchdown throw and why the good Trey is somebody that gets everybody excited about, why that play makes a lot of people say he should be the starter?
Are you talking about the one to Sherfield?
Absolutely.
I don't know why that.
Jack, you need to be excited about this, because it was the play that was on loop after loop after loop on everything. It was on SportsCenter. It was on FS1. It was all over Twitter. Talk about it, my man.
That was a really. It was a great. It's a great throw from Trey Lance, and it was a great design. That was a play that they were expecting that ball to go to Trent Sherfield. They put that in, according to Sherfield, on On Thursday, it was a play that they ran through at the hotel before they went to the game, and so on and so forth. That was a play that they were expecting to be able to hit, and he hit it. So you got to give him credit for that. That was you got to give him credit because that was a great play designed and called by Kyle Shanahan, and he made the play work. You want positivity? I won't give you the rest of my answer.
No, I want the rest. Now I'm intrigued. Jack, talk to me. What's the trepidation? Why are you hesitant to like glee about this play?
Jimmy Garoppolo made the same throw in 2019 against Green Bay.
So you're saying that this is a throw. This doesn't necessarily separate himself from Jimmy Garoppolo. This is another play that Jimmy Garoppolo. It's just kind of showing. This is just a play that any quarterback can make, kind of thing.
Well, Garoppolo made the throw against Green Bay I think it was in the regular season game. Play action. They're going towards the north end zone. Play action, rolls to his left, hits his back foot, throws it out to Kittle running across the field deep to the right, hits him in stride, and Kittle runs it in for a touchdown. It's not the same exact play, but and Garoppolo even said it wasn't the same exact play, but it's very similar. So again, I'm not trying. It was awesome because the kid's a rookie. But it's not like they were asking him to go out there and read the defense and make this throw. They said, here's what we want you to do. You're gonna have this guy here, you're gonna have this guy here. The deep shot should be open, hit him. He runs the play and he hits it. He executed it great. Give him a high five because he did it. Don't lose your darn mind over it because it's not a lose your mind play. I'm sorry. So
basically, guys, to sum up Jack Hammer's point on Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo should be the starter. Is what Jack Hammer is saying. You heard it here first, guys. Jimmy Garoppolo should be the starter according to the press Democrats, Jack Hammer.
I thought we were friends.
Before we leave, Steve had a question. Steve Supremo, which is more likely, 3 teams in the NFC West make the playoffs, or the Niners win a Super Bowl with a rookie QB and Jimmy G's 14% cap hit? This 14% number, got to give credit to Grant, man. He's put it out there, and everybody's an educated capologist when it comes to quarterbacks winning and cap percentages.
Yeah, I know that you're like, see, this is the thing. I'm the buzzkill tonight because I know how Sunil is, and he's the fan, and he's very positive. And I'm positive that the 49ers are going to have a good season. I also wouldn't bet on them to win the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have a really good team, but I'm not going to bet. I understand. You've got this right here. You've got the no rookie quarterbacks ever won a Super Bowl. No quarterback with the salary cap number of Garoppolo's has ever won the Super Bowl. It gets even worse with Garoppolo because there's no guy that hasn't. There's only one quarterback in the history of the Super Bowl that's ever lost his first start as a quarterback and then gone back and as a starting quarterback again to start another Super Bowl that hasn't been an NFL Hall of Famer, and that's Craig Morton. He's the only guy that's been able to get to 2 Super Bowls after losing his first and not end up as a Hall of Fame quarterback. So that's a big knock on Garoppolo, and then you got Lance too, and Lance, no rookie's ever done that. And I think this team has a really good shot, and I wrote an article again going back to, it was last week, I think it was, and history's on Lance's side here because I really think that Lance can be like Ben Roethlisberger. If Lance starts this season, starts a lot of games this year, he can lead this team as far as the NFC Championship game, maybe even squeak into the Super Bowl, but I think really the NFC Championship game would be maybe the top. But, that's what Roethlisberger did as a rookie, and if you remember, he came back the next year, won the Super Bowl, and then won it again a few years after that. So I wouldn't complain about that if that's what Trey Lance becomes.
For sure. I've said that somebody else, I don't know if it was you, but somebody else comped Trey Lance to, Big Ben. And, if you're getting two Super Bowls out of a career, that's a great career to have. And to answer Steve-O more directly your question, it's probably more likely that 3 teams in the NFC West make the playoffs. I do believe the 49ers, the Seahawks, and the Rams all have a really great chance to make the playoffs. So Jack, that's the show. Talk to us a little bit about what they could look forward to you this week. Obviously, you're doing a lot of writing. You're putting up, some great content on your Twitter. What do the guys need to look out for this week from you?
Yeah, we'll be doing. I'll be up at camp tomorrow. It's the last practice in Santa Clara before they head down to. Well, they are going down to Costa Mesa, so almost San Diego. So I think that's why I keep saying the San Diego Chargers, because they're still kind of based there, even though they play in Los Angeles. But yeah, so no, I'll be up at camp tomorrow, so there'll be a camp report that I'll put out tomorrow. As for the rest of the week, I'm still kind of working on my topics there. It really kind of depends on what I see tomorrow and any, kind of rewatching the game and things like that. There might be some other content there, but definitely will be there'll definitely be a preview, probably coming out Friday or Saturday for the game, and then pay attention to afterwards. I'll have a write up about it afterwards. I usually do my 5 burning questions. That's my pre-game write up usually, and I'll do the answers to those after the game. And then right now during the preseason, I'm doing a really focusing on the rookies and doing kind of a rookie report card as well. So those are some of the things that you'll see if you go over to inside the 49ers over at the Santa Rosa Press Democrat.
I love it. Well, guys, if you didn't know yet, this is a regular Monday night show with myself and Jack Hammer. He's been so kind to give me an hour of his time every Monday night. And it's exciting now. We're actually talking about games. It's only going to get more and more exciting from this point on. We're weeks away from, game 1 against Detroit. And we're going to be having everything here, breaking down the game Monday nights. Either 6 or 7, we're figuring that out right now. But definitely Monday nights is going to be the time. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you, my guy Ryan. Please smash the like button if you enjoy this content. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel. Please do the same to Jack's channel. You guys probably already subscribed because everybody subscribed to Jack's channel. It's really good. So thank you once again, Jack, for being on the show. Appreciate you guys all for watching tonight. Please, this week, we got a lot of big names on the show. So stay tuned. Love you guys. We'll see each other soon.